Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, depending on which side of the world you are located in. It's a pleasure for me to share with you our experience in using one of the tools that was developed, as Yeska said, by IRC and Water for People to try to assess and understand some of the costs related to direct support costs, but not only the direct support costs, but the entire capacity of a district to deliver the sustainable wash services. I will not go into more explanation about direct support costs or what we mean by direct support costs, because Yeska have said it all. I'm just going to be more on a practical basis to take you through a tool that we have used and tested in one of our districts, and I will show you how we have been using that and how we have adapted it to the Rwandan context. So. Yes. For the usefulness of this tool, maybe as a short introduction to this tool tool is used to evaluate if a given institution or given government institutions or any other organizations has the required resources, first of all, financial and human resources, and if there is a working environment that is enough to ensure and to provide a sustainable water service delivery, not only in the present but also in the future. And this tool mainly provide answers to 4 questions. First of all, the first question is how many staff is an institution or does the district need to ensure that service delivery, and what is the budget required? Yeska have taken us through all the budget components that are needed. But here we'll mostly talk about the office costs and human and monitoring costs. What will be that budget required? And the third one is, does the staff available have the required skills to undertake those assignments to ensure sustainable water service delivery? And is the institutional framework in place good enough to make sure that everything we implement or everything we do is towards the assurance of that sustainable water service delivery, wash service delivery. This tool was originated for, as Yeska said, it was a tool that was initially developed by IRC and Water for People. It was mainly targeting to assess the direct support costs needed to ensure water service, wash service delivery, and those were mainly the human and the financial gaps in the organization or in the district. But later on, we developed it, we adjusted it, and we changed it to include some more components. The first component that was added on the initial tool was the skills assessment, and that skills assessment was developed by JICA, which is the Japanese International Cooperation Agencies, to assess the current skills in the staff within the organization and what are their gaps. And then later on, there was a checklist that was developed by Water for People to verify if all the organs or all the entities, all the people involved to ensure the wash service delivery, that they have all the requirements in terms of budget, in terms of management, in terms of monitoring, in terms of resource management, to ensure that there will be a sustainable wash service delivery. Now the tool, it is being used in Rwanda as part of the district-wide approach. I'm not sure if all the people participating in this webinar are familiar with this district-wide approach, but the district-wide approach is an approach that has been approved by the Ministry of Infrastructure here in Rwanda to be tested in Rwanda in 5 districts as an approach that will help the government to reach sustainable wash services and also, of course, to reach the SDG targets. And this district-wide approach is being implemented or is being tested in Rwanda as part of a global initiative, which is the Agenda for Change. And This Agenda for Change is a collaborative initiative between IRC, Water for People, Water Aid, the Osprey Foundation, and our concerts to strengthen government system to ensure that everyone in a district has adequate service to water, sanitation, hygiene, and that those systems are in place forever, and the people and the population will continue to enjoy the services, which is the SDG 6 target. If I go to the tool now, as an overview of the tool, as I said, the tool is composed of by 3 parts. The first part is to evaluate if the entire institution or an entire district has enough human resources and financial resources to ensure the sustainable water services. The second part is to evaluate if the available staff have the required skills and the capacity to conduct those monitoring or to ensure that the water services are delivered. And lastly is to evaluate if all the checklists, all the metric in the checklists are there to ensure that the institution framework is available or is good enough to ensure sustainable wash service delivery. I don't know if it will be visible to everyone, but now I'm going to go through in those components of those parts of the tool. The first part, as you can see, is the district capacity assessment. This is part of the human and financial assessment. And how it is used is that first of all, you list the activities in the on the right side of your screen. You list the activities that you did. First of all, you need to identify what are the activities needed to ensure the sustainable wash delivery. It can be from a formulation of a project, the survey and planning, the design, the implementation process, the procurement, the payment, the monitoring, everything. And then for each activity identified, you need now to put the number of days associated for each activity. That means if I say that formulation of a project, in the formulation of a project, we need to undertake 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activities. For each activity, and I have to put the number of days equivalent that I think that activity will be completed. And then after inserting the number of days, the tool will take the total of all those number of days, and then it will compare it sorry, the slides are not moving, but normally is that you take the number of days. For example, you can see in the formulation of a project, we have put a certain number of days, and then the total number of days will be taken into the number of total days required to undertake to ensure those services. That total number of days will be compared with the actual number of days within a country, the number of total working days. That means removing the weekends, removing all the public holidays, removing the annual leave that the staff is supposed to take. And then the tool will compare and tell you that, okay, for you to have a sustainable wash services, the listed activities you mentioned, and based on the number of days you have assigned to, maybe you are requiring 863 days per year, in 1 year. But in your country or in your systems, you only have 230 working days. Then it will say, okay, for you to fulfill all the tasks or to complete all the tasks, you need 3 staff. It will just be a matter of dividing the total number of days by the total number of allocated days, and then it will give you the, okay, you need 3 staff or 4 staff, because it's now saying 3 and 3.7. It will tell you, okay, you need 4 staff to fulfill all the activities. And then it will be up to you to compare that. Okay, I have now in the district or in my organization, I only have 1 staff. That means I have a gap of 2 staff, and that's why maybe there is a shortage of service delivery. There is a shortage of follow-up. there's a service of shortage of monitoring, and you can start from these figures and advocate for more recruitment or more staff allocations, and you can easily advocate for more human resources. Then, after identifying the number of staff needed, as you can see, it's just a simple Excel way of analyzing things. There's no much complicated formulas. It's just the total number of days divided by the number of actual working days in a system, in organizations, and then you get the number of staff. The important thing is how you define your activities and how you assign the number of days. Because if you forget one activity or you assign wrongly the number of days, the tool will give you wrong information. Then the following part is now to see what is the budget required. The first one will be, first of all, to identify what are the budget or the costing that we need to, and of course we have seen the number of staff. Now we have to see those staff need to be accompanied by a certain cost. There is salaries, there is administrative costs, there is a finance cost, there is a transportation cost, there is operation cost, there is the monitoring, the office equipment, the training required. Then you provide a cost to each of the component, each of the budget line. But this one, you assign the idealistic budget, the budget you think will cover all those things. That means if you have to have to assign a salary, you need to put an idealistic salary that will keep your staff in place, and that will not create a high staff turnover. That means if I need to keep my staff, what is the salary should I give him for him to stay in my organizations or in my district? Then you will see on the transportation, of office cost and operation cost and everything. After assessing all of that, you will then compare with what is the actual budget allocated to my district or to my organizations. Then the tool will just compare the gap. That means you have identified your cost needed to ensure sustainable water service delivery. That's the idealistic one, and then you compare it with the actual budget you currently receive or you annually receive, and then the tool will tell you, okay, you have a 40% or a certain percentage as a deficit because the budget you are allocated by the government or by your budget allocator is not enough for you to fulfill all the activities or all the assignments you are supposed to undertake. But it will also tell you that you have a deficit. It will give you a percentage of your budget versus the total budget allocated to the institutions. By institutions here, I mean the district, because normally a district is a government organization or government entities that have all the government components or government sectors activities like roads, like energy, education, health, agriculture. Then it will tell you, okay, the budget you are receiving now is maybe 10% to the total budget of your district. And then you can start also, you can use that figure to say that the budget I'm receiving now is not enough for me to fulfill because I'm only receiving 5% of the total budget allocated to the district. Then it will also calculate the budget, the detailed budget, the actual budget versus the budget allocated to the district. That times we say that's saying that the budget I'm receiving now, how far is it to the real budget that I'm supposed to get? Now, that's the human and financial assessment. Now I'm going to the skills assessment. Maybe I'll take you back. You remember the activities we have identified at the beginning as the list of activities that are required to be undertaken for a follow-up, for a proper follow-up, or to ensure sustainable water services. Now we'll bring back all those activities, and then we'll identify the staff that are required, that are normally supposed to be following those activities. Then you'll have a short interview or a short discussion with that staff, and then you'll be asking questions that will help you to assess how that staff can perform that task. Then you can ask him in a formulation of a project, what are the criteria for you to select a community? How do you do the selections? How do you do this task? How do you do this activity, or how do you follow up? Then, based on the answers the staff is giving you, or based on his knowledge, you can assess him by giving him a mark for each activity. Then the mark will be arranged from from 1 to 5, from 0 to 5. Then it will pop up. You just click on that tool, and then it will give you this stuff. For this activity, maybe deserve a 1, maybe deserve a 2, maybe deserve a 3 or 4 or 5. And then if he scores below 2, he will get 1, which is represented by a red color. If it is between 2 and 3, he will get a yellow. Is between 4 and 5, it will be 5. And then if you conduct all the activities all the marking for all the activities, at the end the tool will give you an average for the entire organization. Then it will give you a mark, and of course the mark will also range between 1 and 5. And at the end it will tell you that in total, your institutions, in providing sustainable wash services, on an average, you can provide these services at a level of 3 out of 5. And then also, of course, there will be an equivalent color. The red, it's below 2. 2 and 3, it's yellow. 4 and 5, it is green. And then after assessing the entire organization, you can also go deep and trace back where are the gaps. Maybe the gaps are in the formulation of the project. Maybe the gaps are in the survey and planning, or maybe the gaps are in the designs. The good thing with this tool is that it does not. It will show you where your capacity needs to be oriented, because most of the times the solution is not to fire the staff. It's not to terminate the contract of the staff. It will just inform you that you need to build the capacity, the design capacity of this staff. You need to build the capacity in survey and planning, or you need to design the capacity of this staff in formulation of a project. Then you can see where are your gaps, or even necessary. Sometimes you say, okay, maybe this chapter or this component, there is no staff who can perform this. I need to hire a new staff. That was the skills assessment. I think I've said all of this. Now we go to the enabling environment. The enabling environment is also, as I said, it's a checklist that was developed by Water for People to identify what are the minimum metrics, what are the minimum criteria that we need to have in a district to ensure a sustainable wash services. It will go. We have 9 indicators that go from service authority, service provider, water resource management, the public institutions, which are the schools and health centers. And then from all those, we have set some metrics that we have to say, okay, is these things available? For example, does the district have a wash office established? If yes, that metric will get 1. If it is no, that metric will get 0. And then it is composed by 9 indicators, as I said. We have some, each indicator have various metrics. And then this is the result input. Sometimes it's a yes, or the percentage of the available, because sometimes you also ask the budget. For example, for the finance, we can ask, has the district has an investment plan to meet all the direct support costs? If yes, at which level? Maybe it is 100%, maybe it is 50%, and then you put the equivalent figure. And then this is the equivalent scores and the average score per each indicator. All the metrics, when they are scored, the average score for all the metrics are now represented at the indicator scoring. And then it will be scored for all, for everything. And at the end, it will give you that. It will also give you an average for all the metrics, for all the indicators. It will give you, okay, your institution framework is set in a way that it can deliver a high level sustainable service. And then, of course, if if there is some gaps, if there are some criteria that are not met, some metrics that are not met, you'll have to go and see what is the constraints, what is the challenges, what are the challenges, what are the metrics missing, and then you will go and support the district or support the government or support the institution framework to establish that component or that metric that need to be there to ensure sustainable services. And as I said, for this one, for this enabling environment or the institutional framework, if you get a score of 0, that means all the metrics are not in place. You will get a 0, which represents a black color. The equivalent color would be a black. It will say that you have no sustainable service at all. From a scoring between 1 and 3, it will be an inadequate sustainable service. It will be a red color. From 4 to 7, it will be a basic sustainable service. It will be represented by orange color, and from 7 to 8, it will be an intermediate sustainable service, a yellow color. And then if you fulfill all the 9 indicators, you will receive a high-level sustainable service, and it will be represented by a green color. I think that's it. I have to say for now. I don't know if there are questions. Maybe we'll answer them during the next sessions. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.